Afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the second class in Mindfulness Matters. My name is Nick Tennant. I'm an on-site health educator in the Jacksonville Wellness Office, and thank you for those that are joining for the second session. I recognize a lot of familiar names from the first session, so welcome back. Those of you that have just joined Mindfulness Matters, this is the second it is available to you. The first session is available to you on demand on our bridge page on the wellness site. So please go back and check that first one out if you've missed that. And then after each session, reminder for everyone that there is going to be a post-class assessment that is essentially going to be your attendance for the session. Okay, so without completing that, we have no idea whether or not who jumped in and out of Zoom or who watched it on demand. So remember that you have to complete that assessment after each class. So that's basically your attendance. It's only about 3 to 5 questions each time that just goes over what we learned in the class, and it's pretty practical skills that you can apply. So if anyone missed completing that first assessment, there will be a link at the end again that you can go out there and complete it, as well as a link for this second session as well. But remember to complete each of those after each week so we can count your attendance, because that's what's going to be required for the program. So without further ado, I just want to go over some housekeeping rules. Remember, you do not have to share your video during this session. Please do mute yourself during the session, but I highly encourage everyone to use that chat function in the bottom of the screen. I'd like this to be somewhat engaging, and I'd like people to discuss different ideas that work for them as well. And if you join my first class, I talked, and one of the first activities I had you do was try to recall the morning that you just went through, right? Try to recall that morning. Now, has anyone, and you can use this chat function as I talk, has anyone been practicing mindfulness? Have they been a little bit more mindful when they wake up, maybe sipping that cup of coffee, they enjoy it a little bit more, or maybe they actually remembered how they got from point A to point B without, without just saying, oh yeah, I made it out of habit. So what we talked about a lot last class was, even driving to and from work, we know we take that route, but if I ask you to recall that drive from to and from work, you may not be able to recall it as easily, right? So trying to be mindful and more present in the moment has really been beneficial. Really a huge staple in mindfulness, right? Today, we're going to look at the science of gratitude. So, what gratitude and mindfulness have in common, and how you can use that to become more mindful and enrich your life even further. So, without further ado, we'll get in today's session. So the objectives for today is we're going to try to gain a better understanding of what gratitude is and what it really means and how we can use gratitude. So we probably have a basic understanding of gratitude. We know when someone is grateful, we know when someone is ungrateful. But we're really going to look at the science. So what is research and what do researchers say about gratitude and how it can help us? How can we apply this to our daily life? And one other thing that I talked about at the very end of last class is um, keeping a daily gratitude journal. So that is one of the requirements of the class. For those of you that are just joining, we are starting the daily gratitude journal today. So everyone's starting fresh from right now. So there was no assignment from the first class to start this daily gratitude journal. However, I do want to emphasize there are free gratitude journals as a program registrant. If you're in Jacksonville, it's in the Jacksonville Wellness Office. For my Gainesville folks, you do not have to have, and even the Jacksonville folks, you do not have to have this specific gratitude journal. So if you're unable, obviously, if you're in Gainesville or you're offsite and you're unable to make it to the 8th Street campus to pick up that gratitude journal, you can keep one on your own. We can also send out a link to the one that we have in the office. It's available pretty much everywhere. Amazon sells it for about $6, so it's not super expensive. But it is free to anyone that wants to come and pick one up that is a program registrant. There'll be a sign out sheet. So during normal business hours, stop on by the wellness office, pick that up if you're interested. If not, by all means, you can keep one on your own. It's not specific to that specific journal. So without further ado, let's get into this. So when we talk about gratitude and all and what it makes us feel, usually when people are grateful to us, it makes us feel happy, right? Right? We feel good when people are grateful to us. If we did something spectacular, even went out of our way for someone, just a thank you and a really authentic thank you makes us feel good. But what else makes us happy, and why does being happy really even matter? So the science behind happy is Sonia Lumabursky, who you guys probably some of you may know from that wrote the How of Happiness, did some research on this. So they said, why do I want to be happy, right? We know good feelings come from happy, but how does that translate into our everyday lives? Well, happy people are more productive at work. So last class I spoke to you about, having that short fuse that we may have. We may have not slept well the night before. We're stressed. We miss that cup of coffee. We come in and the first thing people do is ask you a question and we haven't even set our things down, right? We don't want to feel like that. So happy people are more productive at work. They can concentrate better. They can get more accomplished. Also, they make better leaders. So recall the people in your life that are strong mentors, that people that you can say influenced your life, whether it be a supervisor, whether it be someone you just look up to. Were they always negative? No, they were probably happy. They were probably positive. They probably encouraged you a lot, right? So happy people can make better leaders. They are also less likely to get divorced. Now, that doesn't mean happy people don't get divorced. Obviously, that is the case. But as you can see, it probably translate. Happiness doesn't just go over into the workplace, it translates into our personal lives as well. So happy people are less likely to get divorced as well. They have stronger immune systems. So we talked about how those feelings of stress and what it does to our bodies and our immune systems last class. So happy people don't have that same effect necessarily all the time. That chronic stress that we may be feeling, happy people learn to adapt to that stress, manage it in a more positive manner. And that translates to be more resilient. We define resiliency in that bounce back quality, but also using the adversities that we face in life and maybe those roadblocks as stepping stones, seeing them as opportunities rather than just roadblocks to our success. So they're more resilient. Also, big surprise, happy people live in the present moment. So we remember talking about how we stew in these thoughts of the future and the past, and we're anxious about things. And we think about, you try to go to sleep and you think about something embarrassing you did 10 years ago. That's not good. So living in the present moment can actually lead to happiness. And lastly, happy people are more comfortable expressing gratitude. And that really segues into this course of what it means to express gratitude and what it can do for you. Now, what I want you to do right now is I want you to think what would make you happy, right? And a lot of people say, well, if I have money, I'll be happier, right? If I had all this money, if I won the lottery, yes, you probably would be happy. I mean, who wouldn't, right? But how does happiness or does money really lead to happiness? So they asked um, someone that was making $30,000 a year how much you would need to be happy, right? How much more money would it take for you to be happy? And what they found out is that people that were making $30,000 a year actually said that it would take $50,000 a year for them to be happy, right? So an extra $20,000 a year and they would feel happier. The strange thing about this, they asked people that were making $100,000 a year how much it would take for them to be happy. And that number is actually 250,000. They said it would actually be a quarter of a million to be happy. So what we see is, yes, while money does matter in some sense, it can give us some security, some food and things like that. Money doesn't necessarily lead us to happiness because the idea is we're always striving for more. So while we may ask for a raise and get that raise, and after a couple months or 6 months to a year, we think, oh, we need more. We want more. So there's always this idea within ourselves that we're always striving for more. So right now, how about stuff? Does stuff make us happier? So I want you to think right now and fill in this blank. If I had that new blank, I'd be happy. It doesn't even have to be new. If I had that blank, I'd be happy. Okay, think for a second. What would it take? What things, what stuff would be good that if you had, oh, I'd be happy. If I had that new car that I've always wanted, that new iPhone, right? That new watch, that new dress, whatever it may be. If I had that new blank, I'd be happy. So researchers looked at this. They looked at, does stuff make us happy, right? So I see some people chiming in, new bed, I just got one, I love it, right? New truck, great. So if I had that new blank, what would be what I would be happy, right? So they looked at this study. So this is a study by Nickerson et al. And they asked 20,000 freshmen in 1976. They were asked how much they wanted nice things. So that could be a car, computers were just starting to become a thing, but watch, think of materialistic items. So a house, a car, a new watch, a new suit, things like that, right? 20 years later, they asked those same 20,000 freshmen about those materialistic things. And what they found was that the materialistic individuals, those that valued those materialistic items more, so they valued those cars, those watches, those new suits, those things, they actually had a lower life satisfaction and had more mental health disorders than those that valued materialistic things less. Okay. So we see that money doesn't necessarily make us happy long term, right? And stuff doesn't make us happy long term. Why is that? Why is it that even though we know money will make us happy, more money will make us happier short term, more stuff, like when you get that new car, how happy are you, right? You think about that new car that you got, you've always wanted, you probably wash it every week, you clean it out, you take care of it. For those of us that have had cars for more than 5 years, how often do you wash it now? Right? I mean, you may keep regular maintenance up, but it's probably not every week when you get that brand new car. You hate when something spills in it. But it's this idea that we adapt to the things that we get, right? So the idea here is what is known as hedonic adaptation. And it's the idea that we tend to adapt or grow used to positive or negative experiences or our things. So that here we always are striving for more, striving for that new thing or that next thing. So if you look on the right side of the screen, the hedonic treadmill. So this is at the very top, you desire something. So I'm not an iPhone guy. I'm one of those Android guys. So you can enjoy my green font when it comes through. But here's what I'll say. If you say you want that new iPhone, right? That's what you desire. So you strive to get it. You start saving your money. You know it's coming out. It's got this awesome camera, all these new specs that you love, and you finally get it. You save up enough money, it comes out, you buy it, right? You enjoy it. You love your new iPhone. You share it off. You love taking pictures and all that and the other. But then you kind of grow used to it, right? And we think about how companies and advertisers use this to their advantage. I mean, do you really need a new iPhone every year or a new phone every year? No, but they know that within us we strive for that. We strive for the next thing, the more, we always desire more. So what happens is we adapt to the things that we think that will make us happy, and then we end up desiring more. So happiness and that satisfaction that we have aren't permanent. So you can pay attention to these things that we may not have. I bought my last phone, I think, a couple years ago, and I used to be that guy that would buy it every year. And I'd be thinking, a couple months down the line, okay, this phone's cool. Like, yeah, but how is it? Is it that much different than my other phone? So think about that. So we're always striving for more and always striving for the next best thing. And so how can we stave that off? How can we, try to combat this hedonic adaptation where we grow used to our positive experiences or things that make us happy? And the best way to do that is something called savoring. So you probably heard this, savor the moment, right? So savoring is this act of stepping outside of an experience to review it and appreciate it. So what this does is it keeps us in the moment. You've heard me say this time and time again. It's about living in the present moment. So when you truly savor something, you are living just that moment. You're not worried about what comes next. You're not worried about what came, 3 months before. You're not worrying about the next best thing. You're truly, truly living in that moment and savoring it. It also gives us an increased appreciation. I'll bring it back to mindful eating. I've long been since out of college and everything, and but when I even now, I don't get to see my parents as often as I'd like. They live a couple states away with the pandemic and everything. But when I get a home cooked meal, I'm just some kid off in the street just teaching myself, how to cook, and it's nowhere near my mom's cooking, nowhere near. So I try to really savor that meal whenever I get a home cooked meal from my parents. It's truly savor. I truly have that increased appreciation of what I'm eating because I know it's good and I know what I cook versus what they cook. So it also increases our gratitude. Have you ever experienced something and you've savored it so much that you are just truly grateful for that experience, right? I mean, you truly are grateful because you know what it's like without. And it also boosts our mood. We talk about the negative self-talk and not living in the present moment and how that can create anxiety and stress for us. So boosting our mood is great because we're living in the present moment. We're not stressed about the future. We're not stressed about the past. It boosts our mood in the current moment that we're living in. So how do we savor more? That's a great concept. We love to savor, but how do we increase that savoring? So Paul et al. Completed a study to look at how savoring increases our happiness and helps us actually savor more. What can make us savor more? And the first thing is you'll see the common theme here, and it's staying in the present moment. Savoring increases when you stay in the present moment. Okay, so you can't savor things if you're always thinking about what's next or you're thinking about what came before. It's also sharing the moment with others and talking to others later about it. I love this one. So you heard me talk about how important it is to have that support system, whether it be your family, your friends, your coworkers, your kids, whatever it be. Even if they're not in the moment with you, appreciate it. So they didn't get that experience with you. You can actually still savor it and increase your savoring just by sharing it with them later. I think that's great. So not only sharing the experience in person or over the phone or computer in today's world, but also just explaining it to someone, sharing how it made you feel to others later. Also increasing savoring, and the next two kind of go hand in hand, is thinking about how lucky you are and being proud of yourself. We tend to be our own worst critics, right? We get down on ourselves. We set these lofty expectations that we have to do this, we have to be perfect, and we're just not. So, thinking about how lucky you are and being proud of yourself, not feeling that pang of guilt because you are happy. It's okay to feel good, right? So, being proud of yourself in the moment, thinking about how lucky you are to be experiencing this moment can actually increase our savoring. Laughing. This is something so simple, but you think about it, you can probably recall the moments that you laughed the hardest, right? You were truly living in that moment. Think about the times that you were laughing with others. Are you thinking about anything else? Or are you just in that moment? Your phone's off, you're not thinking about all that, you're laughing in the moment, you're sharing it with others, so you're able to savor it more. So while there are things that increase our savoring, there are also things that will decrease our savoring. So, not staying in the present moment. You're always thinking about the past or the future. Or here's the big one, thinking about how the moment will come to an end. And this is big because we think, yes, this is good right now, but I know it's going to come to the end, right? And that goes down even further on the list, thinking it will never be this good again. Right. So if we're living in the past or future and we just think this is going to come to an end no matter what, so why should I even care? Because it will never be this good again. Right. We tend to savor those negative experiences. Do you ever realize that when we're feeling negative or are having negative experiences and we're going through tough times, we never think, okay, well, this is going to end and I'm going to bounce right back. Right. We don't think positively necessarily all the time in those experiences, but when we're positive, we should think the same. I mean, we have that same mentality. When we go to negative thoughts, we should bring it over to the positive side. Truly savor that moment. It's okay to feel good. Okay, and you don't have to worry about it coming to an end. If you live in the present moment, you won't have that feeling. Also, telling yourself you don't deserve this. No guilt, do not feel guilty about feeling good. Okay, and it increases that savoring and increases that gratitude. And that's what this is all about. So, as we move into gratitude, I wanted to share this quote. Dr. Steiner Ross is a Benedictine monk, and he gave a great TED talk. I'm not sharing it with you all, but if you ever want to go watch it, it's called "Want to Be Happy," and it's "Be Grateful." That's the title of the TED talk. And he said, "Gratefulness is the key to a happy life that we hold in our hands. Because if we are not grateful, then no matter how much we have, we will not be happy. Because we will always want to have something else or something more. We'll always want to have something else or something more." And that goes back to that hedonic adaptation, right? So we're always striving for more, something else, what's the new thing out, or what's the next best thing, instead of being grateful for what you do have. So what is gratitude? We probably know what being grateful and ungrateful is, but Robert Eamon speaks about the two components of gratitude and what they mean. Okay, the first component is called appreciation. And this is something that is valuable to you, but that does not have to do with its monetary value or its monetary worth. That does not mean it cannot be of significant monetary value, only that it's not the reason for your appreciation. The monetary worth has nothing to do with your appreciation for it. So you recognize that it has value and that you recognize what it means to you. Now, Eamon states that it's an affirmation of goodness, that we affirm that there are good things in the world, gifts and benefits that we've received. Okay, so appreciation is that first component. The second component of gratitude is this idea of gratis, or something that is freely given to you. Now, Emmons explains that we recognize that the sources of this goodness are outside of ourselves. We acknowledge that other people gave us many gifts, big and small, to help us achieve the goodness in our lives. So, in total, it's affirming that we have received something, whether it's tangible, an act, or a moment, and that we appreciate outside of its monetary value. And we also acknowledge that this goodness came from somewhere outside of ourselves. Right. And I think that's something we don't take fully into consideration. We think of grateful, and a lot of times we associate it with monetary worth sometimes. So compiling all these two components of gratitude, Angeles Arian who wrote Living in Gratitude, said this: "Gratitude is a feeling that spontaneously emerges from within. However, it is not simply an emotional response. It is also a choice we make. We can choose to be grateful, or we can choose to be ungrateful, to take our gifts and our blessings for granted. As a choice, gratitude is an attitude or a disposition." I didn't put that on the screen, but I want to say it again because I do think it's powerful. Gratitude is a feeling that spontaneously emerges from within. However, it is not simply an emotional response. It is also a choice we make. We can choose to be grateful, or we can choose to be ungrateful, to take our gifts and our blessings for granted. So, as a choice, gratitude is an attitude or a disposition. I think that's very powerful as we try to put more gratitude and be more grateful in our lives. Let's look at some of the science behind gratitude. So, in this study that you see on your screen, this was done by Emmons and McCullough. So, you heard the last slide, Emmons' components of gratitude. And in this study, they had selected participants and placed them into one of three groups. So, there was a gratitude group, a hassle group, and an events group. Now, each participant in each group was asked to write 5 items that occurred in the past week for their respective groups. So, for the gratitude group, you had to write out 5 things that you were grateful for that happened, right? The hassle group, you wrote about negative experiences or roadblocks or adversities you faced in 5 of those. And then events group were just neutral events, just things that happened. 5 things that wrote down what happened. And so what they found is that those in the gratitude group, those that recalled 5 different positive things or things that they were grateful for or people that they were grateful for had a higher life satisfaction. They had more optimism for the upcoming week. They had better physical symptoms and increased physical activity, up to an extra hour a week of physical activity. So when we talk about mindfulness being whole health, right, the whole body, it's not just a mental health aspect. We talk about mindful eating, we talk about sleep hygiene, stress management, but also physical activity. You know, we're less likely to be physical active if we're stressed, if we're anxious, if we're always strung out, right? So it's this idea of creating this whole health, whole body concept with mindfulness. So, how do we become more mindful in our gratitude? How do we insert that into our life? I want you to think, how often do we think someone should have thanked us for something that we did and we didn't receive that thank you? Right? It kind of made you upset, right? You went through all this trouble and you did something maybe for work or for family members or whatever it may be, and you don't even get a thank you. Or even worse, sometimes you get that thank you that's just like, thanks. It's just not no thought into it. And you can tell when someone's being authentic or genuine and when someone's just saying it out of a habit or reflex. So observe your interactions and your conversations more. Okay. When someone does show us appreciation, when someone does give us, either through an act or just saying how thankful and grateful they are, how does that make you feel? Think about a time someone said thank you to you and showed you appreciation. Makes you feel good, right? I mean, it makes you feel good. You get this big smile inside and you feel proud of yourself, but you also are happy that you helped someone else. So we need to be more mindful of our conversations and our interactions with others and make sure that we're not doing the formal. We don't want to do where we're not expressing gratitude for someone because we know how that makes us feel. We also need to be attentive in our thankfulness. So why are we thankful? Like I said, don't just say thank you out of reflex because it's what you're supposed to do. You can tell. You can tell when someone means thank you. So they can probably tell too, right? Too often we in our conversations and our interactions, we listen to a reply. We don't listen to comprehend or understand. When someone's, especially in discussions, we're halfway through someone's response or someone's question or someone's explanation, we're already thinking about what we're going to say next instead of listening and being attentive in the moment. Right? We're always thinking about what's the next thing to say. So we miss the second half of what the person says because we already have our response handy. All right. So be more attentive. Uh, Listen to the whole conversation and listen to really understand instead of just reply. And lastly, practice, practice, practice. With everything in life, practice will help us, right? So remember to reap the full benefits of gratitude and mindfulness, we have to continuously put it into practice for ourselves. Try to remind yourself to be in the present moment. If someone's talking to you, put that phone down, listen to them. Okay. You don't want someone scrolling on their phone when you're trying to have a deep conversation with them as well. So remember, put it into practice. So sharing the love. So let's look at research that was done about what happens when we share our gratitude. Okay. And this was done by Seligman et al. And participants were asked to write a letter to someone who was kind to them or showed them acts of kindness. And then they were asked to deliver that letter. So they were asked to think of a person that they were grateful for and write why they were grateful for, and then deliver that letter to them. And what they found is immediately after that, you can see how much happiness increased for them. Then look at 1 week, still above the baseline. 1 month, 3 months, even 6 months after the fact, they were still happier just from one letter of gratitude, right? So sharing that experience, sharing your gratitude with others actually increases our happiness level. So what I'm going to ask for you, the first homework assignment, sorry guys, the first homework assignment is I'm going to ask and task you with writing a letter of gratitude to someone in your life. And what I'm going to ask is be mindful and specific in thanking them. So describe how their acts or what they did influenced or impacted your life positively. And then I'm going to ask you to deliver it. Now, Obviously, we're in the era of COVID. So if you can call them and tell them. I mean, if you don't feel comfortable, you could write the letter and then call them and tell them. You could email, you can use the old snail mail, whatever you want to do. All I ask is you write a letter and you be mindful and specific when thanking them. I will tell you, I have done this. It brought the person I wrote it to tears, and it brought me close there as well. And I feel good. I mean, think about if someone did that for you, just telling you how much you mean to them. Okay. So that's the first assignment I want. Now, you don't have to share with anyone. It's all confidential. You don't have to tell me who you're writing to or any of that. It's all on our system. But to really reap the full benefits, I would like for you to write a letter of gratitude and then deliver it to that person. Now, the second assignment is this daily gratitude journal that you heard me talk about. And so in this daily gratitude journal, like I said, you can pick it up from the wellness office if you'd like. You can keep one on your own. It is going to be confidential. I'm not going to ask you to turn it in. I'm not going to ask you to share it. All I'm going to ask is that you be mindful in your writing. So I want you to express your feelings fully onto that paper. Okay, so take 5 to 10 minutes out of each day and write about something or someone for which you are grateful. And be mindful when you write. Now, while there are no right or wrong answers, I don't want you to just write down, I'm thankful for the sun, and then done. I'm done for the day. We know that's not mindful. We know that's not specific. Maybe you're thankful for the sun of the feeling it gives your skin when you walk out first thing in the morning, right? Or you first time out for the day, how it warms up your body. Okay, and how that feeling it gives you, or that cup of coffee, maybe it tastes so good that it really warms up your body. Talk about your five senses and how it affects those. Okay, so truly savoring and stepping outside. Remember, stepping outside the moment, right? Fully experiencing it. So why are you grateful? Okay. So here's some examples. You don't have to follow these, but if you're stuck, feel free to use these. Write about a person in your life that you're especially grateful for and why. So this is a good one. I mean, we talked about that letter of gratitude for someone. Um, so you can, oops, sorry about that. So you can use that as your first one if you'd like. Write that letter, put that journal entry. Why are you grateful for that person? Okay. Here's a good one, and there's gonna be a few in here talking about negative experiences and turning them positive. So what is there about a challenge you're experiencing right now that you can be thankful for? So maybe there's something in your life, a roadblock, an adversity, something of that is just a challenge, but maybe you can find some positive. Maybe it's a learning lesson and you've learned a lot more than you ever thought you could. And it's made you a better, more rounded person. And when X, Y, and Z comes to ask you a question, you'll feel confident in answering it now. Okay. So finding even a challenge in your life that you can turn into being thankful for. Or what about what are you taking for granted in your day to day that you can be thankful for? We talked about our morning routine. Maybe we take that for granted, or our drive to work, or just little things that our coworkers or our family members do that we take for granted. Here's one I really do love, and it's list 5 people in your life that who are hard to get along with, or you see as hard to get along with, and write down at least one quality for each that you are grateful for. So it's turning these negative thoughts, right? These negative experiences, and it may be tough for some, but I guarantee you you're gonna reap the benefits of even listing one thing, one quality that they have that you're grateful for. So we can change those negative thoughts and interactions into more positive ones. And then lastly, who has done something this week to help you or make your life easier, and how can you thank them? So something we talked about, that letter of gratitude to someone, but what about just this week? I'm sure just today, in the short amount of time that we've been here, I mean, if however long you've been awake, I'm sure there's someone you can be thankful for just today. So write about that person and tell me why you're thankful. Tell yourself why you're not turning it in, but say why you're thankful. Okay. So those are the two writing assignments and the only homework that you'll have for this class other than the post-class assessments. But I do want you to keep up with your gratitude journal from today all the way at least through the end of this class, at least through the end of the program. So for the next 3 weeks, I hope you continue on after that, but at least for the next 3 weeks, once a day, write down something or someone you're grateful for and why. And I truly want you to be mindful, savor the moment, experience it, and write it all down. Remember, you don't have to share it with others, but even sharing it with yourself and writing it down helps you relive that experience, right? And helps you truly savor it. So when we look ahead at the next class, it'll be next week. So we'll talk about mindfulness, stress, and meditation. We'll do some deep breathing exercise, go over some other mindfulness strategies that you can do. It will take place a week from today at noon. Again, if you can't make it live, remember all these are going to be recorded, so you'll have them available. And we'll send out a copy of this this presentation to you all after the class. So make sure to look out for that, as well as a link for the post-class assessment. So if you don't, the next slide will have the links to that, but if you don't want to click it right now, we will send it out an email later as long as you're registered for the course. Again, don't forget to pick up your gratitude journal if you want it. They are still available. They're free of charge. You don't have to do it. You can just get an old black and white notebook if you want, keep it that way. Just state it and make sure that you're doing it every day. Just take 5 to 10 minutes out of your day and just find something that you're grateful for and explain why. And don't forget to write that letter of gratitude to someone else. I am curious. I won't ask you to share that letter, but for those of you who write it before next class, if you feel comfortable just sharing how it made you feel, or if you got feedback from anyone else, how that made them feel, would love to hear everyone share their experiences. You'll also, as I said, you'll receive a copy of this presentation. Do not forget to complete the post-class assessment, which I will go to right now for everyone. So if you missed the first class or you completed the first class and you just forgot to do the assessment, on the left side of your screen is that QR code for the first presentation post-class assessment. And on the right side of the screen is your second class, the one that we just did today. So if you hover your smartphone, your camera app over the QR code, it'll pop up. And it should take you to a link where you can complete that. Remember, you don't have to do it right now. We will send out a link in our post-class email, as well as a copy of this presentation. But for those of you that want to go ahead and get it done, please go ahead and do that. I'll leave this up on the screen for a little while longer. I'll hang around if you guys have any questions, but we thank you for joining us again, and I hope to see everyone again next week.